Hey guys, Dusty here. Today I'm going to give you my top 3 tips on racing in the heat. If you've been racing triathlons long enough, then more than likely you're probably going to come across a race that is over 32 degrees Celsius or 90 Fahrenheit. And for those races, hopefully these tips will help you out a little bit. Okay, tip number 1, slow down. If you want to see a race that looks like a war zone, watch any Ironman event when it's super hot out. There will be people puking in the ditch. They won't even make it to the run. There's tons of slow times. There's tons of DNFs. And one super easy way to totally wreck your race on a hot day like that is to pace it and put out the effort like it's 10 degrees cooler. It doesn't matter if you think it feels just as easy on race day when it's hot. You need to slow down. You might think that you're putting out the same effort, but internally you're going to be working a lot harder. Your heart rate average is probably going to be up 5 to 10 beats per minute, and over the course of, say, an Ironman, that's going to take its toll on you. So if you're going to pace your race based on effort, definitely dial it back. If you race using a heart rate monitor, you'll know what your heart rate zone should be, and being able to keep an eye on that will keep your pace and heart rate under control. Same thing goes with power on the bike. You more than likely shouldn't be pushing the same power on the bike when it's 90 plus degrees out versus a nice cool day. You might be able to put out the same power, but you're not going to run very well off the bike. It's funny, we just had Ironman Canada here in Canada, and it was a super hot day. A lot of people weren't prepared for it. And it was funny, after the race, reading people's race reports, they were like, I felt so good on the bike. I was holding my race power, and then like 4 or 5 hours into the ride, they just totally blew up, and they couldn't even push like half the power. Well, yeah, you were going way too hard for the weather conditions. It was way too hot to be pushing what your goal pace is. All right, tip number 2 is hydration and electrolytes. So first off, let's talk hydration. Just because it's super hot out doesn't mean that you become a camel and can just take on as much water as humanly possible. At the very, very most, someone might be able to take in up to 1 liter an hour, but I would say for most of us that's just not going to be the case. And actually, you'd be pretty surprised how on hot days, when you ask some of the pros out there how much more water did they drink, a lot of them will tell you it's actually pretty close to what they had planned, even if it was 10 degrees cooler. However, with that being said, when it is hot out, you do need to increase your electrolyte intake. So electrolytes, that's sodium, potassium, and magnesium. And the important one on race day is, of course, sodium. That's the one that we lose the most when it's hot out. So going into a race, make sure that you have an electrolyte plan. The longer the race, the more important it is to have electrolytes. And of course, the hotter the race, it's important to have electrolytes. So do a little research, find out what works for you, and have a plan in place for hydration and electrolytes if it's super hot out. Alright, my last tip has to do with the run specifically, and that is going through aid stations. So if it's super hot out and it's an Ironman event, I totally think it's okay to walk through the aid stations just so that you get the aid that you need, but more importantly, do everything you can to cool yourself down. So for myself, that looks like this. I'll go through an aid station. I'll typically wear a hat during an Ironman, so take the hat off, fill it full of ice, hat back on, unzip my top, put as much ice in as I can, put ice in my shorts, grab some sponges, put them in my top if I need that. And then if I have a chance to grab another cup of ice, sometimes I'll just hold a couple of ice cubes in my hand, put one in my mouth. The goal going through an aid station is to get as cool as possible before you hit the next aid station. So typically at an Ironman, I believe the aid stations are spaced every mile, which isn't bad. That gives you plenty of opportunities to get lots of ice and cool down. And if you need to walk through the aid station to do all that, then that's totally okay. It's better than missing 2 cups of ice because you're running too fast through the aid station and then you blow up and you're still half a mile from the next aid station. And that's it. Those are 3 pretty simple but super important tips when it comes to racing in the heat. And another thing I should mention is, I don't know how many times I hear it, but athletes who say, oh, I suck at racing in the heat. Just having that mentality going into a race, when you know a race is going to be hot, you're already just putting a negative mindset out there. So stop saying that. Yes, some people are better at racing in the heat than others, but follow the tips that I said and you'll be okay. Just remember, you have to slow down when it's super hot out. So like always, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe for more everything running, triathlon, and nutrition related.